Hello and welcome. Here we are on The Guardian, and I hope and I pray that you're having a great day here on this Wednesday. Yesterday, November the 7th, there was elections all over the nation. And that's what I want to talk about and discuss today. But before I do, if you have not already subscribed to the channel, I would ask that you would and subscribe. It really helps us. And of course, like and comment. And as far as helping get out our message, and Facebook and YouTube and Instagram and all of these social media platforms, they don't like it whenever our message gets out. And so they turn down, the algorithm. And so let's help if you can. And I would greatly appreciate it. Just hit that subscribe button and like and comment, and it really helps us as far as getting out our message. Yesterday, there was elections all over. We're going to talk about two things that they voted on in Ohio, and then also Kentucky, and then Mississippi, of course, and then the Pennsylvania Supreme Court, and then the Virginia State Legislature. And but I do want to start off by saying first, my uncle was running for PSC. He's actually my second cousin, but the way we grew up, we always referred to him as uncle. Him and my dad, same age, and the way that they grew up. So we always refer to him as uncle, even though he is, my second cousin. But Nelson Wayne Carr, and he won Public Service Commissioner. And that's him there in the red shirt and talking to Dave Elliott on WLOX. And man, I'm just so proud of him. And he worked so very hard and to win. And he actually didn't have anybody running against him yesterday. And he actually, his row race was back in August, and he beat the current Public Service Commissioner by 8%. And Nelson, he worked. I mean, him and his wife Vicky, they traveled all over the 27 counties, and they was working and talking to voters, and he did a great job, and he pulled off the victory. And I know that he's going to do a even better job as Public Service Commissioner. And he is a worker. And that is something that him, my dad, and my uncles, and all of those men and their wives, they are workers. And I know that he's going to work, and he's going to give it everything that he has, to be the best public service commissioner that he can possibly be, fighting for the citizens. And so I know that he is going to do that, and I'm looking forward to working with him over the next several years. One thing that I have pushed, many times, over the last several months, is your vote counts. Because so many people talk about how, they're going to stay at home and they're not going to vote because our vote doesn't count. But man, we saw yesterday, that your vote does count. And I'm not sure if you keep up with Mississippi news, but in Hinds County, a judge ruled, I think it's probably for the first time ever, a judge ruled in Mississippi that the polls could stay open until 8 o'clock, and which is very, very fishy and should never have happened. And I'm there in Hinds County, but the judge ruled, and that's what they did. And it's unfortunate, that the judge ruled that, and because polls should close at 7 o'clock. Now, if you're in line, before 7 o'clock, that's and you get to vote. But once 7 o'clock hits, there's none of this driving up, well, I just got off work late, or I had a flat tire, or my car broke down, or we ran out of ballots, or whatever, so we're going to postpone this until 8 o'clock. That's ridiculous and unbelievable that a judge would even make that rule. And so, but that's why I always push. I always say, your vote counts. And that's why we have to get every single person that we can to the polls, and which I believe is very, very important. And so even with that happening in Hinds County yesterday, our governor and Governor Tate Reeves, and I want to talk about that race, and he won yesterday. And here he is. He and his wife and Governor Tate Reeves will return for second term. And he is finishing up his first term, and he's going into his second term. And you see there where it says Democrat candidate Brandon Presley called Reeves to concede, telling his supporters he wanted to end his campaign well. Which, hey, I respect that in Brandon Presley. That he would call the governor and he would concede, and he would I don't know what he said. I don't know the conversation. And but there he is having that conversation with the governor, conceding and telling his supporters that he wanted to end his campaign well. Everyone should do that. If you lost, if you lose an election, you should call your opponent and you should congratulate him and then move forward. It's unfortunate whenever people don't do that. It really shows a lot about a person's integrity. It shows a lot about a person's character whenever they don't pick up the phone and make the phone call and congratulate. Of course, you don't feel good. Of course, you feel bad about it. You just lost, and so, but that's what you are to do. If you have character and if you have integrity, like Brendan Presley, called the governor, to concede. And so I think that is good on Brendan Presley's part. Now, we worked our tails off to beat Brendan Presley, and our governor did. He got there's 95% reporting, and there's still a few out that hasn't totally reported yet. But Governor Reeves got 51.6% of the vote. Brendan Presley got 47% of the vote, and then there was a lady running as an independent, Gwendolyn Gray, and she got 1.4% of the vote. And so the governor, wins his second term. And then all of our 8 statewide elected officials, all 8 of them won. And then we had the Public Service Commissioner of the North, Chris Brown. He won his election. And then my uncle, Nelson Wayne Card, he won the Southern Public Service Commissioner. And then they haven't called, the last that I looked earlier, the Central Public Service Commissioner, they haven't called that race yet, but the Democrat was ahead in that race. And so hopefully, the Republican can pull it out. Mr. Bailey can pull it out in that race. But, we do have all 8 statewides, plus the governor's mansion. We have 2, as of right now, 2 of the 3 public service commissioners. We have 3 of the 4 congressional seats, and we have both Senate seats there as far as representing the Republican Party. Now, I will just say this, and then of course, we still have a supermajority in the House and in the Senate there in Jackson. And I'll just say this, and I will encourage each and every one of you, and I will encourage each and every one of them. Let's pray for our elected officials. These men and women that were voted in, yesterday, many of them will be starting, some of them for the first time, in a new position in January. Some of them will be, their second term or so, starting in January. But still, we need to pray for them. But then also we need to, govern as Republicans, and govern according to our Republican platform, which is so very, very important. One thing that I would like to see happen in Mississippi, in the next couple of years, is I would like to see legislation passed that would make each and every person, each and every voter here in Mississippi register by party. I know some states do things differently, but I would like to see Mississippi register by party. And what that means is this, that if you register, for Libertarian, when it comes to the primary, well, if you're registered Libertarian, then you vote in the Libertarian primary. If you register as a Republican, then you vote in the Republican primary. If you register as a Democrat, then you vote in the Democrat primary. If you register as an independent, then in the primary, you vote according to the party that you're registered. So in August, whenever we have our primary, here in 2023, back in August, we had our primary. So then Democrats cannot cross over and vote in the Republican primary. Republicans cannot cross over and vote in a Democrat primary. Independents cannot. They have to vote independent. Libertarians have to vote Libertarian. So whatever party you're registered by, you vote according to your party. Now, when it comes to the general election, obviously, everyone's on the same ballot, so you vote however you want. You could vote, if you're Republican, you can vote Democrat. If you're Democrat, you can vote Republican in the general election come November. But in the primary, you vote according to your party. And I would love to see that happen in Mississippi. I think it would be great in Mississippi. Louisiana does what we call a jungle primary. That is where everyone's on the same ballot. And Republican, Democrat, everyone, and you vote and they take the top 2 unless one gets 50 plus 1, and then they have a runoff. And so I don't like that. I like a registered system to where everyone registers according to their platform. And so that means that even if you have a runoff, say the Republican Party has a runoff, well, Democrats cannot come out and vote in a Republican runoff, regardless if they voted or not in the primary, because they're not registered Republican. And the same in the Democrat Party. If you're registered as a Democrat, and if the Democrats have a runoff, and if you're registered as a Democrat, you can vote in the Democrat runoff. But if you're registered as a Republican, then you can't. You're not even on those rolls as far as voting. And so because it's their primary, primary. And so that is very, very important. And I would love to see, that happen, in the next couple of years here in Mississippi. Let me ask again, if you have not already subscribed to the channel, please do so. And I think, and I would really appreciate if you could help me out by subscribing. Here's something else that I want to talk about. Yesterday, I brought my son, to vote with me. And I believe it is so important that we are teaching and training the next generation. I have one I voted sticker. My son, his sticker says future voter. And he was happy to go with me, and he watched me mark, every single person. And of course, I voted Republican. I don't do write-ins. I voted Republican straight up and down the ticket. And he was there watching me, and we voted for the governor, and then we voted for Nelson Wayne Carr, and then we voted, we just voted Republican all the way down. And so he was with me. And then we walked out, and I showed him how I put it into the machine, and showed him all of those things. And then I got my I vote the sticker, and then he got his future voter. And it was just good. And it was just good to take him and to teach him and to have the conversation about the importance of voting, because we need to teach our children, our young people, to be engaged and be involved. I like this as well. Someone took this picture. I didn't take this picture, but it says, teach children to love America. And boy, that is so good that we should teach our children. I believe it's important we teach our children to love God, to love our family, to love our church, to love our country. I believe those things are very, very important. And so, and once again, it goes back to teaching our children the issue of your vote counts. And so, which I think is, and so very important. So now let's talk about this issue in Ohio. Yesterday in Ohio, they had a vote on whether or not to amend the state constitution to give individuals the right to an abortion. Now, here's the shocker. I was shocked yesterday with Ohio. 56.6% of the people in Ohio voted to amend the state constitution to give individuals the right to an abortion. Now, listen to me very carefully. I'm going to say this, and some people might not like this, but I was so excited and so happy that Roe was overturned. I believe that Roe was unconstitutional, Roe versus Wade, and I believe that Roe versus Wade should have been overturned. I'm so thankful that the Supreme Court did that. But what the Supreme Court did was they gave that back to the states, that each individual state can decide whether or not that they are going to allow abortion in their state. Now, let me just say this. I'm as pro-life as you can get. I vote pro-life. I am pro-life 100%. I like this sign right there that says I am the pro-life generation. And so I am pro-life 100%. I vote pro-life. If I was in Ohio yesterday, I would have voted no to this, not giving the right, and not amending the state constitution, giving the right. I don't even like the word abortion, giving the right for someone to murder. I was in the room last night watching the results come in down at the courthouse. And it came up on the screen that Ohio had made this vote, and one of the gentlemen that was in there, we were talking about that, and of course he was a Democrat, and we totally disagree about the area of murdering children in the womb of the mother. And he said this to me, as he was walking out. He said, "Don't tell my daughter what she can or can't do with her body." There's one thing wrong with that argument, that it's not your daughter's body. It's not that woman's body. That is another body instead of her womb. And that is that is a child, that is a baby. It has its own beating heart. It got its own brain, its own fingers, and it has its own body. That is not your daughter's body. And so I am very disappointed that Ohio would vote to legalize abortion. And of course, if we ever have that here in Mississippi, we're going to work, and all of us pro-lifers and Republicans are going to get out and do everything that we can to make sure that doesn't pass here in Mississippi. But this goes back to this. 56.6% of the people in Ohio voted to amend the state constitution, giving people the right to an abortion. That means that a lot of Republicans in Ohio voted for this. That means that there's a lot of Republicans that are not adhering to the platform of the Republican Party, which is very much pro-life. Then issue number 2 in Ohio, they voted to legalize recreational marijuana for people 21 and older. 57% of the people in Ohio voted to legalize marijuana. 43% voted no. Now let me move on to Kentucky. Kentucky had a big race yesterday, and they had their incumbent, who's a Democrat, Beshear, running for governor, and then they had Cameron running as a Republican. Beshear got 52.5% of the vote. 42.5%. Cameron got 47.5%. I feel for Kentucky. I hate it for Kentucky that they would reelect Beshear, this Democrat-backed governor of their state. Pennsylvania Supreme Court, they had their vote yesterday. McCaffrey, who's a Democrat, 53% of the vote. And then the Republican got 47% of the vote. And then another thing that wasn't so good was in Virginia, the state legislature. In the state Senate, 21 Democrats won. 18 Republicans won. In the House, 51 Democrats won. 47 Republicans won. Which the Democrats flipped the House. The Republicans was in control, but the Democrats flipped. No. The Republicans were in charge of the Senate, and the Democrats flipped the Senate. The Dems were already in charge of the House, so now the Democrats control both the House and both the state Senate, which is sad. So we had some good wins yesterday, and we didn't have so good wins when you look at nationally. In Mississippi, we reelected our governor. In Louisiana, we voted in a Republican governor, which is great. And so, but once again, this goes back to something that I always talk about is your vote counts. I always mention this, always like to talk about this, your vote counts. Now, we move on to 2024. 2024, there is obviously the biggest, and that is the presidential election, 2024. We're going to be talking about that a lot. We're not going to dive into that right now in this video, but we're going to be talking about that a lot over the next course of the next several months. And whenever it comes to the presidential election, of course, you all know, if you watch my videos often, that I'm with President Trump. I believe that Trump will be the nominee, and I believe that Trump will win the presidency, and he will be the next president of the United States of America. I do believe that we will beat Joe Biden in 2024. I believe we'll beat Joe Biden regardless of who it is. If it's Donald Trump, we'll win. If it's DeSantis, we win. If it's Nikki Haley, we'll win. I don't think it really matters. I think that we win. But in saying that, I'm still supporting President Donald Trump. He has my full 100% support. And then you have the Senate race. Our senator here in Mississippi, Roger Wicker, is up for re-election. And so now I've heard of two so far that are going to be running against him. And one is Dan Eubanks, and then one is Gannon Burton. Those two that I've heard so far are going to be running against Roger Wicker. And then there is our congressman is up for re-election, Congressman Mike Ezell, and he is up for re-election. I have heard right now there are two gentlemen that are running against him that have already announced. One, his name is Carl Boynton, and then the other, his name is Michael McGill. And so those two are running against Congressman Ezell. That election will be up here soon. You have December, January, February, March. It'll be here. And then, of course, on the ballot will be the presidential candidates as well. And so over the next course of the next several months, we're going to be talking about these elections. We're going to be interviewing I'm sure we're going to be getting a lot of people on the show with us talking about the upcoming elections. We'll have people on that are one is maybe going for Roger Wicker, one might be going for Carl Boynton, one might be going for Michael McGill. Why? And we're going to ask questions and just have a good conversation here on the channel, on our YouTube channel. And so once again, thank you guys for watching. Thanks for tuning in here on YouTube on the Guardian. I really appreciate it very, very much. And as I say every single time we end the show, God bless you and God bless the great United States of America. I pray that you have a wonderful day.